everybody, I'm Creed, and welcome to Creed Saturday Morning, episode 11. Today what I'm working on is Snidely Whiplash from Dudley Do-Right of the Mounties. Now, Snidely Whiplash is a really bad guy, and actually I think he's my first Canadian villain in my gallery. Now, Dudley Do-Right of the Mounties, or sometimes it was just shortened down to Dudley Do-Right, was a backup feature on the Rocky and Bullwinkle show, which ran from 1959 to 1964 and had 163 episodes. Also, in 1963, some new Dudley Do-Right episodes were made to accompany Tennessee Tuxedo and His Tales, which is also an excellent cartoon. Now, Snidely Whiplash, it never actually gives a direct location. It just says Canada. But from what I can gather, it was out west and far to the north. So maybe out near Edmonton is probably where the show takes place. I know in one episode, Snidely Whiplash is taking over people's mortgages, and he's foreclosing and kicking them out. And they even say, but it's minus 40. So yeah, that sounds like Edmonton to me. But he doesn't care, and he boots them out anyway. Now, for what's mostly a harmless cartoon, Snidely Whiplash has the most vicious villain habit of almost any villain. His go-to move is to grab a girl, tie her up, and throw her on the railroad tracks. I mean, the railroad tracks! What a bad guy! Now, nothing ever really comes of it, but he's actually out there doing it. I mean, he's trying to make a big, messy red splotch. It just doesn't happen. I mean, that's really vicious. For your go-to move to be tying somebody up and putting them in front of a train, that's pretty crazy. Now, Snidely's part of an old villain trope from way, way back, where villains were all black and had a big handlebar mustache and acted really sinister. And he really did enjoy being evil. Like, if he had a plan, he'd just go completely with it. He didn't really have much good in him. Now, Snidely's voice was done by the amazing Hans Conried, who is just a classic actor. It's really sad that most of our really super classic, iconic cartoon voices are done by actors who aren't with us anymore. Hans Conried did the voice of Captain Hook on Peter Pan, and the voice of Dr. Dredd from the Drak Pack. But he's probably best known for the voice of Snidely Whiplash, I would say. Now, the cartoon was made by the awesome J. Ward Productions, and all of their stuff had a similar look and feel that no other cartoon company could really duplicate. I mean, they made the awesome Fractured Fairy Tales, Aesop and Son, Peabody's Improbable History, just some of the really great cartoons of all time. And even though this is a 60s cartoon, it's one of those timeless cartoons that it ran in the 60s, it also ran in the 70s, and it also ran in the 80s. And when I watched it in the 80s, I was only a little kid, but I had no idea it was an old cartoon. I thought it was as current as everything else that was on. Now, Snidely Whiplash always faces off with Dudley Do-Right. Now, Dudley Do-Right is really a square, and he really means well, but he fails at mostly everything that he does. The most on-the-ball character on the show is Dudley's horse, who actually isn't given a name, which I was sure he had a name, but once I looked it up, no, he's just called Horse. For example, in one episode when Inspector Fenwick loses the Mountie station in a card game to Snidely Whiplash, Dudley comes up with the idea to get his horse to play him in a game, and the horse he plays Snidely Whiplash and wins everything he has, and then Snidely runs away. So the horse beat him in a poker game. Actually, a lot of the time, it's Dudley's horse that actually saves the day, which is cool. Now, this is villain number 81 in my gallery, and I've been meaning to add Snidely Whiplash for a long time. I'm glad I got him finally finished there. So I do have lots more villains coming. And on my other show, Creed's Other Earth, I'm finishing up my DC project. And so far, that show's been comic book art. And actually what I'm looking at after that project is a little bit more comic book stuff, but it's going to be from my own comic book universe that I created in the 90s. I learned to draw from comics, so of course I tried to make my own. I do have a great story written out. It was during the process of making the comic that I realized I really don't like to draw sequential story art. I like to draw a piece of art. So someday, if I could find a really good penciler who needed a really good inker for his own project, maybe I could trade off some work and get a comic done. But I really never see myself drawing a full comic. And it's not that I can't draw. It's, well, I probably wouldn't be that great at it, but the reason for that would be is I don't like it. And I'm not in art to just get the art made. I'm in art to enjoy what I make. So it was a failed experiment, but it's the kind of thing where you need to try in order to know if you want to do it or not. So I really had all my plans at the time on being a comic artist. Once I tried to make that comic, I realized it's not for me. But I do have a large collection of character art from that story. And like I said, off the top of my head, I think there's about 16 pages. I don't think I'll post them all. Some are really bad, but there's some surprisingly good art in there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a sort of a compilation video about that failed comic. I think maybe I'll call it One Day of Making Comics. But that's my next thing I'm working on right now on the horizon. But for this Fan Art Friday, I always do a Creed Saturday morning. So I have lots more cartoon stuff planned for Fridays. But the Tuesday show, and actually I'm trying to spread it out a little more so there's more than just one Tuesday video. I did good this week, I got 2 out. But for now, the Tuesday show is going to be more comic stuff. And I think I'm going to be transitioning Creed's Nightmare Creatures, which I haven't worked on in a while, into a Halloween show, not really a horror show. And actually they're similar but a little different. So I think it's going to be Creed's Halloween 2016 is going to be the show, and I'm going to start doing updates reasonably soon. And then there's going to be a big push in October. Like I said, I'm still working on that. And I did lose a little bit of footage here in this Snidely Whiplash. That's why you'll see it jumped a little bit. And at the end, what I'm doing here is to get the texture on the background. I work in such a big file size that when I use texturizer, the scale of it is too small and you don't really see it. So I have this technique, and what I do is I resize the file way down and save it as a different name. I can apply the filter to the smaller version, and then I just move the smaller version over back into the original art. So if you have a problem where you're working with big files and the scaling of the filters doesn't work for you, that's all you have to do is make a separate smaller version, apply all the filters over there, and then just move them over. Just a little tip for a problem that I've come across. Well, this has been Creed Saturday Morning for this week. I hope you enjoy Snidely Whiplash, and there's lots more to come, so make sure to stay tuned. And don't forget to have a great day. Well, thanks for watching to the end. I really appreciate it. Here's a couple of videos you might want to watch. I made them myself. You never know what I'll draw next. You might want to subscribe to keep up. I'd really appreciate a thumbs up or a thumbs down, depending on how you feel. And until next time, take her easy.